Today we are going to build a to-do app with some authentication. It will be based on the mern, so mongodb, express.js and react.js. We are going to start with a result of my previous tutorial about how to create a basic authentication with mern. I will put the link somewhere here and also in the description. And also all this code will be linked in the description as well, so you can start where we are at now. Okay, so first thing we are going to do is to go to API, server.js, and change the database to something else. Let's call this one auth-to-do. So we'll have a clean database. Alright, now let's go to our app.js and see how everything looks like here. So let's start by fixing the structure of our app. Let's remove all of this. And the first thing we are going to need is a navigation. And here inside we'll have 3 links to home, login and register, and logout if we are logged in. Alright, so the first thing is that we want to have home link. So let's do link to home, and let's call this one home. Now we want to have 2 links, login and register if we are not logged in. So let's check that email is empty. Then let's put a fragment here to put 2 elements. The first will be a link to /login with a login text, and the second will be a link to /register with a label register. Okay, so now we are not logged in, so we have both login and register, and of course home. Okay, so now if we are logged in, so let's check that email is okay. We want to see another link that will be logout. So just create a link with a logout label, and on click we want to call this logout method. So we get an event, and with this event we want to prevent default, and we want to call logout function. Okay, now let's make our navigation prettier. So I will go to app CSS and let's remove all of this. And now let's start with a body, and let's make some background color of, let's say, F0, F0, F0. So it'll be a little grayish. And now navigation will be text align center. And now each link in navigation will be display inline block. So we can add some padding of, let's say, 15 pixels. Yeah, that's better. And let's remove those underlines. So text decoration, none. And let's put some color of 333. So it'll be dark gray. All right, now let's try to register our first user. So we go to register and we don't see anything. So we need to go back to app.js, and here under the navigation, we need to put back our switch with some routes. So the first route will be for registering user. So route for exact path of /register with display component of register. Let's also add login component back. So for /login, we will show our login component. But let's maybe add some styling here as well. So I will put this whole switch inside the main component. So I'll grab this switch and I'll put it here. And let's style our main component as well. So main will be width of, let's say, 240 pixels. And margin will be 10 pixels from the top and the bottom, and auto from the sides. Text align also center. And let's add some background color of white, some padding, let's say 15 pixels, border radius to make it look UX friendly, and maybe some shadow to make it look cool. So I'll do 0, 2 pixels, and RGBA of black, almost black. Okay, so now we have some shadow. All right, so now let's register our first user. Let's call this one test1 at example.com, and the password test1. Register, and we have been registered and logged in. But we are still at the register page, and let's fix this thing too. So if we go to register.js, this is the component that registers our user. As you can see, we are registering user, and that's all. we want to redirect our user to the home page. So to do this, I will create a state. Let's call this one redirect and set redirect. The use state and default will be false. Okay, and we want to set it to true if we want to redirect our user to home page. So in here, after we have registered our user, let's also do set redirect to true. Now to handle our redirect, where we are rendering our component, let's do if redirect. Then we want to do redirect component, and we want to redirect our user to just slash, so it will be a home page, and here will be a return. All right. Now let's log out and let's register another user to see if it works. Test2 at example.com, test2 as a password, register, and we are at the home page. All right. So now let's display something at our home page. So let's go back to app.js and let's create the route for our home page. So let's do route, exact path will be just slash, and the component will be homepage, but we don't have it yet. So let's create it. So now we have just an error because home component doesn't exist. Let's create a new file here, new file, home.js, and let's create a function here called home that will return an empty div, or maybe let's say home. And let's do export default home. Right, now let's use our home component. So home, as you can see here at the top, it has been imported for me, and we see the home text. Now we want to get rid of this slash home, so I will remove this. So we are home here. Okay. Now, if we are not logged in, I want to tell this information in our home page, and we can do this using our user context provider. So if we go to home, then we can use our user context. So I will define our user, let's call this user info, and we'll use context of user context. All right. Now we have some user info here, so we can check if the user is logged in. So let's do if. Let's see, what do we have here? We are providing email and set email. We just need email, so let's do if not user info dot email. Then let's return a text that will say you need to be logged in to see this page. Okay, and now I'm not logged in, and I get the text you need to be logged in to see this page. All right, if I'm logged in, I see home. So let's try to log in back with our first user, test1 at example.com, test1 login. I'm not redirected from the login page, so let's log out and let's fix that too. Let's go to login.js, and same as we did with our register page, let's do const redirect and set redirect will be use state and default will be false. And after we log in successfully, let's do set redirect to true. And here where we are rendering our component, let's do if redirect is true, then we want to return redirect to homepage like this. Now let's try to log in, test1 at example.com, test1 password, login, and we are at home. And if we log out, you need to be logged in to see this page. Okay, let's log in back. Okay, so now instead of this home, we want to see our to-do tasks. So let's go back to home component and let's put some structure here. So first we want to have an input with some placeholder that will be what do you want to do, and here below we will have a list of our tasks. So I'll create first task just for example here with an input type checkbox and label test. Okay, so here we have our basic to-do task. Okay, so first thing, we want to be able to put new tasks. So let's use our input and let's put this one in a form. So we can do enter to submit the form. All right, so with this input, we need to have some value in our state. So let's do const and let's call this one input val, and set input val will be use state and default value will be an empty string. So we can use it here. Value will be input vol, and also on change, we get an event and we want to do set input vol value to event target value. Let's fix the formatting here. Right now we should be able to use our input. Yes, it's okay. Now when we hit enter, we want to save a new to-do item. So to fix this, I will do form on submit, and here we get an event and we do something with this event. We want to add a new to-do item. Let's create a new function for this. Add to-do, and we get an event here. So first we want to do prevent default. So this form will not be submitted the traditional way. And let's call this function here, add to do, and let's just pass event here. All right, now the next thing, we want to add this text we get from input to our list of tasks. So we don't have our list of tasks anywhere, so I will put them in our state. So const, let's call them to-dos and set to-dos here. Use state, default will be an empty array, and inside our add to do, we want to add a new to-do item. So let's do set to-dos, and our to-dos will be an array of our existing to-dos. So this one. So let's spread operator to-dos, and we also want to add a new to-do item. That will be an object, and in here let's add the text that will be our input vol from here, and also let's call this one done will be false. So by default, when you create a new to-do item, it will not be checked with this checkbox. So for now, nothing will happen because we are not using our to-dos in our component here. So let's fix it. Here's inside our list, let's do to-dos and let's map through them. So for each to-do, we want to display this li thing, but instead of test, let's do to-do text. And here with our checkbox, let's do checked, and this will be based on to-do done. So if it's done, the checkbox will be checked. Right, so now the list is empty. Let's try to add something. Test 1, enter, and it has been added. But maybe I want to also clear this input after we add something. So after we added the to-do, let's do set input vol to an empty string like this. Now if I add another one, test2, the input has been cleaned for me. So now the problem is that this is not saved to our database. So if I refresh the page, we have lost everything. So we want to save all to-do items to our database. So where we are adding a to-do item, we don't want to add it only to our state, but we want to also save it to our database. So from here, let's use Axios, and let's use a put method, and we'll do HTTP localhost 4000, and let's say that the endpoint will be to-dos. All right, now we want to put some data. So I guess the only thing we need is the text, and now configuration will be with credentials. So we'll send the cookie information about the user, and then we get a response. With the response, we are going to do all this, so add to our list, and instead of doing this text and done false, we'll get our new to-do item from our response. So we can do response data. Oops, and text is not defined, so let's define text as a input vol value. Right, so now let's fix our to-dos endpoint to put information and create a new to-do item. So let's go back to our API and server. Let's scroll to the bottom and app put, and the endpoint was /todos. We want to do with request and response. What do we want to do? We want to save a new to-do item. To do this, we need to create a new model in our Mongoose. So let's go to models, and same we did with our users. Let's create a new file here. Let's call this one todo.js, and we can actually copy the most of it from user like this. And let's rename this to to-do schema. And now let's remove this user to do. All right. So our to-do schema will not be email and password, but instead it will be a text that will be type string, and let's say it will be required. Now we want also to have done, so it will be checked or not. So done will be type of mongoose schema types, and here boolean, and let's say this one will be also required. And the last thing will be user ID, so let's call this one user, and the type will be mongoose schema types and object ID, because it will be ID of our user. All right, now let's go back to server.js and we can use our to-do item here. So here inside, let's create a new to-do model. So it will be const to-do new to-do, and this has been imported for me. I will just add .js. And now with a new to-do, I can put all the information here. So we need a text. We also need, if it's done or not, it will be not done, and user ID inside our user. So the text to our to-do item we will get from a request body. So request body text. The done will be always false. And the user, we need a user ID here. So let's use our JSON web token that we can copy from here. Okay, so here inside we have our user ID, but we will not put just a user ID. We need to create a object ID from this. So it will be new mongoose types object ID, and here ID of our user. So it will be payload.id. Okay, now we just need to do to-do, save, and then we get our to-do item from the database with ID and everything. So with our to-do item, let's do response JSON, and let's response with this to-do item. So we will get ID and everything. Now back to our home page, and let's see if it works. Let's put test1, enter. We have it. If we refresh, we don't have it. Okay, and now even if we are adding a new items, we are not fetching existing items from our database. We are only using our state, but this state is empty when we load our app. So to fix this, let's use effect, and here let's add a function that will run when we load our app, and with empty array here. And now when we load our app, we want to fetch all our to-do items that we have in our database. So to do this, we'll use Axios. Let's do get, and same endpoint 4000 to-dos, and let's say that we will put also our credentials, so we will know what user it is, and then we get a response. And let's say that inside our response, we get all the to-do items. So let's do set to-dos response data. Okay, now let's fix our endpoint, get to-dos. Right, so back to server API, and here app get. So if we are getting a get request at /todo, let's use request and response, and we want to return all to-do items for a specific user. So first let's copy the payload, so we'll have the user ID. Okay, and now let's use our to-do model. Let's find all items where the user will be a user from our payload ID. So user is new mongoose types object ID, and here payload.id. Then find, let's put this in a new row here, and here inside we get error all and all items. And with this information, let's just return all our to-dos. So response JSON to-dos. Now let's try to reload, and we get our to-do items. Let's add another one, test2. Yeah, it works. Okay, next thing is that when I click on one, I want this checkbox to work and this information should be saved too. So if we go back to home.js, let's fix our checkboxes. So this will be only checked if the to-do done is true. So the first thing we need to fix is to add on click. And here let's create a new function for this. Let's call this function update to do. And let's say that here we will get a to do item like this. And here on click, we want to do update to do with our to do item from the loop. So just to do like this. Okay, so if we are clicking the checkbox, we are running update to do. So what do we want to update? We want to update our state with to-dos. So we need to do set to-dos, and it will be an array of all to-dos, but the one that we have clicked should have an updated done. So let's do const new to-dos, and it will be just all to-dos, but let's map through them and let's find a to-do item that we need to change the done at. So with all the to-do items, let's loop through them, and the default will be just to return a to-do item untouched. But if the to-do item at inside our loop, the ID of it is the same that we get inside our function as an argument, so to do that ID, then we want to change the done information about it. So when we click on a checkbox, we want to mark it as done, and if the checkbox is clicked, we want to set it as not done. So we just want to set it to the opposite value that is already now. So let's just do opposite value of the done. All right, now we can use our new to-dos. So here the value of to-dos will be new to-dos like this. Now let's check if the checkboxes work. Yes, they do. But again, if I refresh, the information about checkboxes is not sent to our database. So when we are updating a to-do item, we want also to update this item in our database. So here at the top, let's do also Axios. Let's maybe do post at this time because we have both a get and put. Now let's use post. And here HTTP localhost 4000 and at /todos. We want to send an ID of our to-do item to update. And this will be our to-do underscore ID. And if it's done, if it should be done or not. So done will be the opposite value that we have now. So to do that done. And to clean the code, I will put it here. Const data will be this, and he will just put data like this. And the third parameter will be with credentials to true. So we'll send the user token as well. All right. Then let's say that we don't need to do anything with the response. We can just update the state. So let's just put all this here inside. Okay, so now let's fix our endpoint. So back to server.js, app post at /todos, and here as always request response and a function like this. All right, so here the only thing we want to do is to update a to-do item and update the done field to make it the opposite. Let's get a user ID as always. And now let's update our to-do item. So to do, let's update one, and here the first parameter will be a filter. So we want to update the one where ID is the ID we get from the data. So we can do request body ID, And we also want to check a user ID just to be safe. So user will be payload.id, but we can't send IDs like those because we need to make an object IDs of those. So let's do here and here new mongoose types object ID, and here and here, right? So now we'll just fix the formatting here. Okay, so we want to update one item of to-do items. The first parameter is filter, and the second parameter is what we want to update. So we want to update done, but I think we are not sending if it's done or not. So let's send it as well. Back to home.js, and in here, okay, we are sending it. So done will be request body done. All right, and that's it. Then if everything is okay, we just want to do a response and send status 200, and that's all. Now let's try this. Let's make this test one as done. Refresh, not done. Okay, one small bug, we are sending old done information. When we click on the checkbox, we shouldn't send the current done information, but it should be the opposite of the current done. All right, so now if I click it, then it's done, and if I refresh, it's still done. Okay, so now let's just fix some styling. So at the bottom here, let's check if the to-do item is done. Then let's say it will be deleted like this, to do text. Otherwise, it will be just to do text like this. So now we have this line through, and let's remove those points here. So to app CSS, and let's do ul li display block and ul padding left 0. Okay, it works. Let's check another user. Test2 at example.com. Test2, enter. We have nothing here. Test2 user, enter. Yeah, we have it. And let's set it as done. Yeah, everything works. So that's all for today. Thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to click the like button and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this one. Have a nice day and see you in the next video.